sharp. Talks a lot on the phone and on the TV with speakers and stuff, and I was like a sex slave, okay?
The hush fell in waves. First a ripple of shuffled papers, then the collective inhale of 100 throats, as Jonathan Audi, shackled at the wrists but somehow regal in prison orange, took his seat and stared straight at Sean Diddy Combs. The music mogul, normally a headline in motion, looked suddenly bleached of colour, fingers tented over his eyes as if flimsy skin could shield him from what was coming. When Judge Arun Subramanian asked the witness to state his name, Audi's voice cracked, recovered, and then sharpened like broken glass. Jonathan Audi. I was his sex slave. I heard everything. 8 words, exactly 8, detonated the courtroom's fragile equilibrium. Reporters jerked upright, pens skittering. One juror clutched the armrest so hard the fabric squealed. Audi kept talking, describing red-lit rooms where music drowned out screams, but the real theatre unfolded in Diddy's body language, a tremor in his jaw, a foot that wouldn't stay still, palms pressed so tight against his face they left ghost-white imprints. Defense lawyers rose, then sat without speaking, as if realizing every objection would look like a plea for mercy. The judge's gavel struck once, calling for silence that was already absolute. In that frozen hush, smartphones vibrated with the speed of virality, newsrooms firing off alerts that the bad boy king might finally be facing his reckoning. 1 minute into testimony, the courtroom wasn't a room anymore. It was an epicenter, and the world outside buzzed like live wire, waiting to see whether Combs's empire would withstand the quake. Long before today's bombshell turned him into a headline, Jonathan Audi was the punchline no one bothered to fact-check. A Florida stripper who stormed Trump Doral in 2018, fired warning shots at the ceiling, and screamed that he was Sean Combs's programmed puppet. Police reports tagged him paranoid, gossip blogs called him a delusional clout chaser. The industry exhaled in relief when the story faded beneath fresher scandals. Yet prosecutors now reveal a paper trail that rewinds that meltdown into chilling context. Weeks before the hotel chaos, Audi received 3 wire transfers, each flagged as consulting from a shell company later traced to Combs Enterprises' Cayman account. Months after his arrest, the same account paid off Audi's 6-figure bond in a single overnight transaction. Back then, nobody cared to connect those dots. Today, they glow like runway lights guiding jurors toward motive and means. Add Cassie Ventura's sworn statement, echoing Audi's imagery of baby oil rituals and "you belong to me" threats, plus ex-assistant Philip Pine's matching details about freak-off initiation nights, and the so-called madman suddenly reads like the prosecution's Rosetta Stone. Even Audi's rambling claims of voices in my head have a new edge after toxicology screens show traces of psychoactive ketamine cocktails allegedly favoured at Combs's private parties. Trauma masquerading as psychosis isn't exculpatory, the government argues. It's explanatory. In court, Audi admits the Doral rampage was "my brain short-circuiting under remote control," a phrase that once sounded like sci-fi but now lands with sick plausibility. One dismissed gunman has re-emerged as the connective tissue in a narrative that may stitch together every loose scandal thread dangling from the bad boy dynasty. Cassie Ventura's sworn declaration hit the docket like déjà vu, her memories spooling out in eerie harmony with Audi's, the lavender-lit freak-off suites, the endless bottles of baby oil tucked beside unlabelled pills, the chilling refrain whispered in her ear the first night she tried to leave, "You belong to me." Prosecutors projected timestamps that knot Cassie's calendar of secret NDA payments to the very weekends Audi says he was drugged, filmed and wired hush money retainers through phantom LLCs. Week by week, the transactions march in lockstep, turning coincidence into choreography. Then Philip Pine, Diddy's former assistant, slides into the puzzle with identical props: drone quiet security teams, fireplace-mounted cameras, prove your loyalty initiation lines, creating a triangulation too precise for conspiracy theorists to dismiss. Defense lawyers flinch as jurors watch three strangers from separate orbits paint the same sinister mural, Combs's charisma up front, an industrial-scale pipeline behind the curtain, even mundane details align. Cassie's recall of Glade-scented air freshener matches Pine's procurement emails for signature fragrance refills, and both witnesses cite the claustrophobic bass line of the same unreleased track, looping for hours to haze time. Suddenly, every tabloid anecdote, Diddy handing out stacks of NDA paperwork at brunch, party photographers forced to surrender memory cards, slots into a master pattern of recruitment, control, silence. The prosecution's screen splits into 3 columns of testimony, but the narrative feels like a single voice growing louder, and the jurors, once darting their eyes between witness box and defendant, now stare almost exclusively at Combs, as if daring him to explain how so many people learned the same dark script by heart. The prosecution's next reveal lands like a claustrophobic punch. Enlarged blueprints of a Los Angeles hilltop mansion once titled to an LLC nested 6 shells beneath Combs Enterprises, each sheet inked with 3 windowless rectangles deep below street level, labelled only Studio X, Studio Y, and Quiet Room. A forensic architect takes the stand and points to fingerprint scanners on both sides of every door, entry allowed, exit controlled, plus HVAC vents capable of pumping independent airflow laced with synthetic pheromone compounds the CDC warns can heighten suggestibility. Jurors lean in as he traces sound-dampening insulation thicker than most recording booths. The design, he says, would bury a scream under 40 decibels of sub-bass, a claim corroborated by a retired audio engineer hired to calibrate speakers for immersive ambience. The lights wired to cycle through crimson and fuchsia match Audi's description of red glow purgatory, while Cassie's testimony about temperature swings syncs with thermostats pre-programmed for sudden drops that trigger gooseflesh and panic. An invoice for Glade plug-in surfaces, same signature scent Pine ordered by the case, and a maintenance log notes emergency exit sealed for soundstage integrity, a euphemism the building code expert calls indefensible. The cumulative effect is less luxury bunker, more behavioural laboratory, and the jurors' pens stop moving as if language is failing them. Across the aisle, Diddy sits motionless, but a vein pulses at his temple when prosecutors quote Audi's memory of standing for 10 sleepless hours, while the same unreleased track looped until my own heartbeat stopped keeping tempo. The blueprints linger on the projector like X-rays of a crime scene still warm, and every unfinished hallway in the diagram feels suddenly alive, echoing with the screams the insulation was built to erase. Spotlights swing next to the so-called freak-off parties, and the prosecution dials the voyeurism to 11. Think Star Island Villa, 3 a.m. humidity, and an RSVP list that reads like a Vanity Fair cover shoot. Tyler Perry spotted whispering by the infinity pool, Leonardo DiCaprio half hidden under a bucket hat, Oprah Winfrey's security detail logged at the gate, even a Silicon Valley titan rumoured to bankroll the after-hours DJ set. Audi swears 20 guests became 20 props once the baby oil bottles emerged, unlabelled but restocked hourly by assistants in latex gloves. He describes underage-looking girls past a neon green concoction that pulled the ground out from under them, while Combs paced like a ringmaster, instructing 2 bodyguards to reset the vibe whenever resistance surfaced. Defense counsel hisses fantasy, yet prosecutors counter with a staccato of receipts, catering invoices for 200 oysters and 60 miniature inhalers, billed as aromatherapy devices, a $92,000 same-night payment to a private jet chartered from Atlanta under a shell company called Freakout LLC, and encrypted text messages, unlocked via subpoena, where a Combs lieutenant confirms Oprah's people want the upstairs guest list scrubbed. The gallery gasps louder when a drone shot of the property appears, circled to show a dockside yacht illuminated in the same crimson hue matching Studio X's light settings. Judge Subramanian, wary of turning the trial into a red carpet roast, reminds the room that cameos don't equal culpability, yet the damage is done. Jurors can't unsee America's talk show matriarch parked at a party now framed as nightmare fuel. Every celebrity name floated today becomes a ticking PR grenade, and the question sizzles across social feeds. who watched, who joined, and who walked away before the cameras were wiped clean. The defence finally bares its teeth when Bernard Wolfe, silver mane, voice like cold steel, rises with a stack of certified madness in his hands. He paints Jonathan Audi as the ultimate unreliable narrator, a stripper turned gunman who fired rounds into a hotel ceiling while babbling about government satellites, a man flagged suicidal during 3 psychiatric holds, a felon whose rap sheet reads like a Hunter S. Thompson fever dream. Wolfe paces before the jury, quoting clinical notes that label Audi delusional, flashing mugshots from the Trump-Doral incident, sneering that today's star witness once claimed an invisible implant was broadcasting Puffy's voice into his molars. He pivots to Cassie, suggesting a codependency of addicts, and waves lab reports showing everyone at those parties was swimming in ketamine. Jurors glance at Audi, shackled, sweating, then back at Wolfe's PowerPoint of redacted psych evaluations, but when the lawyer demands confirmation that Audi hallucinated Combs's orders, the witness leans forward, eyes fiery despite the cuffs, and spits, "The only delusion was believing money would save me from his leash," gasps Ripple. Wolfe objects, claiming unresponsive, yet the judge lets the sting linger. Wolfe regroups, promising an alibi. Grainy cell tower pings, he claims place Combs in New York during the Star Island Bacchanal. He hints at surprise witnesses, a Grammy-winning producer, a former DEA toxicologist, set to testify that Audi's bloodstream was a pharmacy long before Bad Boy came calling. As Wolfe returns to counsel table, he flashes a tight grin toward Combs, a silent vow that the next act will flip the narrative back to lunacy and lies. Jonathan Audi's credibility should have been disintegrating under Wolfe's crossfire, yet instead, new voices keep soldering his story back together. Sunrise Television cuts to Audi's ex-wife, tears glinting as she confirms he still sleeps, with lights blazing and a dresser jammed against the bedroom door, because the music never stops in his head. Lunchtime, a former security guard from the 2016 Beverly Hills hotel video testifies that Cassie begged reception to call police while Combs coolly ordered room service champagne. 2 timelines, same terror. By afternoon, maintenance staff who installed acoustic foam in Studio X tweet screen-capped work orders stamped strict confidentiality, then delete them, but not before reporters snag screenshots. The prosecution strings each statement like fairy lights on a crime map. Ex-wife validates trauma, guard proves public coercion, installers anchor the subterranean blueprint. Jurors who once eyed Audi with caution now track every word, pens stilled as if note-taking might break a spell. Even the gallery's skeptics feel the weight shift when a tech vendor surfaces, admitting he archived 16 terabytes of party footage on a password-locked NAS titled Harlem Shake, and that federal agents seized the drives at dawn. Social feeds erupt, Bad Boy unmasked trends past 2 million mentions in an hour, and late-night hosts rewrite monologues on the fly. Combs, brow furrowed, watches his own legend unravel in real time. Each corroborating whisper chisels another crack in the granite of reasonable doubt. Tomorrow, prosecutors promise, they'll unseal select transcripts from those terabytes, just enough to show jurors the darkness behind the baseline, without yet revealing how deep the vault really goes. The courtroom's giant monitors went black, and a hush thick as cathedral incense settled while marshals wheeled in a slim silver hard drive labelled only Evidence Fee-09. 9 files, prosecutors whispered, each stamped with the same midnight timestamp, would play exclusively on the jury's private screen, everyone else forced to read reactions like silent film. As the foreperson tapped a headset over one ear, the first video flickered on, and every juror leaned an inch closer, eyes wide enough to reflect the glow. The rest of us stared at blank panels, cataloguing micro-expressions. A juror's knuckles whitening, another's lips parting in disbelief, one woman tugging her blazer closed as if a chill swept the box. Defense counsel tried to keep their gaze steady on Combs, but even they faltered when juror number 6 muttered, "Oh God," under his breath, audible in the deathly quiet. Prosecutors offered only a skeletal narration, looped baby oil ceremonies, forced oral acts, a weeping Cassie lit by a single crimson bulb, yet those bare summaries, combined with visible jury horror, painted images more graphic than any projector could. Mid-reel, the judge paused proceedings for emotional respite. a rare move signalling footage that scorched the room without anyone else seeing a frame. Outside, reporters texted chain reactions of emojis, wide eyes, broken hearts, flames, while social feeds erupted with theories. Did the jury just watch the missing Star Island tape? Was Oprah on screen? Was that infamous unreleased track blaring in the background? By recess, the gallery buzzed with a collective phantom memory. Proof that sometimes the most devastating evidence is the evidence we're forbidden to see. Prosecutors struck again the moment court reconvened, unspooling a revelation that felt like watching an escape artist caught picking his own locks. They produced call logs from the Metropolitan Detention Centre showing Sean Combs had piggybacked on 8 other inmates' phone accounts, three-way dialing out to off-list numbers more than 50 times in 4 days. One recipient, they said, was Keena Harper, a former associate already under subpoena. Another, unbelievably, was a corrections officer recently shortlisted as juror number 42. Gasps ricocheted as Assistant US Attorney Emily Johnson read verbatim a recorded snippet. Combs urging the guard to keep an open mind and promising a future in entertainment once this nonsense is behind us. Judge Arun Subramanian's jaw tightened. He asked defense counsel if their client had any comprehension of the phrase court order. When they stammered about misunderstandings, the judge revoked Combs's limited phone privileges on the spot, then referred the matter for a separate perjury and obstruction probe, each count carrying up to 5 more years. Bail reconsideration? Categorically off the table, Subramanian declared, citing an active, ongoing threat to witness integrity. The mogul who once flaunted who you know as currency now looked cornered by his own Rolodex, fingers twitching while marshals confiscated his legal pad. Evening newscasts rolled split screens of platinum plaques beside mugshot stills, narrating how obstruction charges often sink defendants faster than headline crimes. Social timelines filled with memes of Combs dialing on a prison payphone labelled "Can't stop, won't stop, tampering." In a trial built on control, the latest plot twist proved lethal. The king of access may have finally accessed himself straight into a credibility freefall. Publicists spent the night triaging brand statements while accountants slammed calculators against spiralling court costs, because the instant Judge Subramanian yanked Diddy's phone and hinted at fresh felony counts, Wall Street downgraded his vodka line, Revolt TV advertisers fled, and Spotify's legal team opened an ethics file marked provisional takedown. Insiders whisper that Sony and Warner are drafting exit clauses to claw back catalogue rights if a single trafficking conviction lands. Meanwhile, Ciroc distributors quietly scrub his likeness from upcoming holiday promos, hoping no one screenshots the before and after. A-list collaborators once proud to gush love on Instagram now rinse timelines of every bad boy throwback, and a major festival, rumoured to have paid 7 figures for a surprise Puff Daddy reunion, circulates a replacement set list. But the fallout isn't just financial. A New York senator cites the trial while reintroducing a federal coercive control statute, and a Hollywood guild schedules an emergency summit on NDAs and power abuse. Even TikTok, birthplace of the number Diddy v Reality remix trend, tags new uploads with a content warning splash screen. Yet the biggest tremor may rumble under oath tomorrow when prosecutors tease one final envelope from a household name still under protective seal, fueling speculation that another superstar witnessed the Star Island horrors and kept receipts. As court resumes, the world braces for a potential Harvey Weinstein-level tipping point. Will hip-hop's once untouchable kingpin bequeath a cautionary crater wide enough to swallow every enabler, or will a last-minute legal remix salvage fragments of his legacy? Until the next gavel drops, every unanswered question hums louder than any chart-topping beat he ever produced.